takže ti předávám slovo.
Děkuji moc za přivítání. Já teda tu prezentaci udělám v angličtině, protože si myslím, že to bude akorát jenom prospěšný. So, once again, my name is Chi. I'm 20 and I want to talk about how to bring the world closer to yourself. I know that being in high school and kind of trying to figure out what you want to do after high school is really tough. I had a really rough time. So I want to show you what my process was and maybe give you a little bit of hope that it's not going to be as bad as it seems. So a little bit of background about me. I grew up in a really small town close to Pilsen. It's called Třeštice. There's like no one living there. And I had a really regular and ordinary childhood, I would say. I went to public schools, nothing extraordinary happening around me. I think the seed of where I started to, yearn for a more international place was exactly in my elementary school, because I was the only non-Czech looking person in the whole school, right? And kids are mean, and I definitely didn't feel welcome, or I didn't feel like I belonged to that place. So moving on to high school, I went to high school in Pilsen. Again, nothing really extraordinary, everything was pretty regular. Until one day, my form teacher, she gave me this form. It was like a competition or something. I didn't really know what it was. I actually didn't really care, but I filled it out. And I ended up going to Germany for a month. And I ended up traveling Germany with a group of international people. And I think this was the first time I was in a group of people that were really diverse, and they were so kind and loving. And for the first time, I felt super welcome, super loved. And I think this was one experience that I really wanted to carry with myself, because these projects, they end after 1 month, and then you never know when you see these people again. So I really, that had a really big impact on me. And actually the same thing happened the summer after that, where I went to a program called Global in Fellowship. And that was a similar program, but it was more catered towards young leaders and people who have been doing really cool things with their lives. And when I was there, I was completely starstruck, because I thought I was too young to do things, I guess. But there were people my age and younger who, I don't know, had a company or a nonprofit organization, and I felt really out of place, but at the same time super inspired, because, living in Třeštice, like nothing really happens, and then you see these people doing so many amazing things, and it really gave me a lot of courage. And another thing I learned from both of these projects was that you never know who you're going to meet, and if there are opportunities such as this one, like the fact that you guys are here is really cool, because you don't know who you're going to meet here, they can get you really far. And so at this project, this guy right here, his name is Sherrington, and he actually told me about the university I'm at right now. He is a student at the university, and he's 1 year older than me. And when he told me that he's going to study in the US for a year and then travel to 6 other different countries after that while getting his bachelor's degree, I was like, oh my god, like that's so cool. But at the back of my mind, again, I was that kid from Třeštice, and I thought to myself, these things probably don't work out for people like me, and second thing, I don't have the money and I don't know how these things work. So I got really excited and a little bit hopeful, but at the same time, when this program ended, I needed to get back to being realistic, because it was the last year of high school and there's no time for messing around, right? Like there's so much to do and you need to have a realistic plan. On top of that, my parents, every day they would ask me, like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna study? What are you gonna become? Of course, I had no idea. And another thing about this is that in high school, there wasn't anything I was particularly excited about or really good at. I was just more of a creative person, but in an Asian household, that's just not a thing to study. So I really didn't know what to do. Anyway, Minerva is the name of the university I was just talking about, and it stayed my #1 priority, but it wasn't a realistic priority. So I started applying to universities in Prague, in which I definitely didn't want to study those things, but I also told myself that I wouldn't mind studying them because there really was no other outcome. And although I was really underestimating myself, I'd say, and I was really stressed about it, I applied because the application was free. And they're the only US institution, higher education institution, that doesn't take SATs, and they have their own thing going on. So I did the application process, proceeded with my CEOs and maturita, and did everything. And then one beautiful late March morning, I woke up and I got accepted. After an hour of crying hysterically that I was so happy that I got accepted, I started crying again, but this time not like happiness, but I was really anxious because nothing changed. I still didn't have the money and I had no idea how this stuff works. Luckily, I think Minerva had done a really good job in being an institution for the 21st century because they want to open up the doors exactly to people like me that in normal circumstances wouldn't be able to afford going here. So they have a need-based financial applications, financial aid applications, which means that you get a scholarship based on your family's financial situation, and it doesn't really matter what you've done in your life, or like if they have accepted you, it means they want you and they're going to do the best to get you into the school. So that was really amazing, and also my parents got to speak to some Vietnamese students, which was really helpful because I have a pretty big language barrier between me and my parents, and having like an actual Vietnamese person talk to them about the school was super helpful. So Minerva did a really, really amazing job of making the process easy for me. And then it was time to go abroad, yay! I feel like around studying abroad there is a lot of glamour that comes with the word studying abroad and studying in the US, but really it is really tough, and for the past 18 years of my life, I've been very well taken care of. I didn't really have to do anything in my household. And moving out into a different country where you don't know anyone, where you have to start studying really hard, and I didn't even know how to cook, I didn't know how to do laundry. This is actually a picture I sent my friends the first week I was in the US. Like, I was really lost. I think, the expectation setting between what people say studying abroad is and what it actually is, there's a really big gap, and I think it's really important to keep the realistic side of it on your mind, because it is really tough. But I think throughout all the challenges, you grow a lot, and I think that's why you're going there, because you want to learn and you want to grow. So the 7 cities that our school goes to are San Francisco, Seoul, and Hyderabad. That's the US, South Korea, and India. These are the cities I've already been to. I actually just came back from India a few weeks ago, and I had to return early because I got really sick in India and I wasn't able to properly function, so they sent me home. But I will be joining my class again in Berlin, Buenos Aires, London, Taipei, and then for a month, for our graduation, we're returning back to San Francisco. So that was like a high-level overview of my school and how I got there. And now I'll tell you a little bit about what my experience was going to the school so far. So next week, I will be finishing my 2nd year, so I'm halfway through. San Francisco was really tough because it was the first city. I didn't know anyone, and as a girl in San Francisco, I had a really rough time getting adjusted to the fact that maybe I shouldn't go outside alone when it's dark because there are people and they have guns. San Francisco as a city is really diverse. It's really liberal. I've never felt like judged, or I just feel like people in San Francisco are super open, really, really nice. But there's also a thing to San Francisco that a lot of people don't know, and aside from there being amazing work opportunities, it's a city with a lot of social disparities. So even though you have a lot of rich people in this city, San Francisco has the second biggest homelessness population, and because the city is really small, it really shows. And it just put things into perspective for me, because I've never seen so many people suffering and not being able to afford like basic life necessities, like walking on the street in the Czech Republic. And even though I know that a lot of times we put America on a pedestal, I think it's also good to realize what we have, and that not everyone has the comfort that we've had, I would say. San Francisco, as the only city basically that I spent a year in, was an adventure, I would say, because I started exploring the professional side of what it means to be a person that's actually working and not just going to school. And I think San Francisco was a perfect place to do that, because everyone is so helpful and they want to help you. They just really want to help you. I don't know if that's like being fake or if that's really genuine, but they're very approachable and very, very open-minded. The next city I went to was Seoul, South Korea. The global rotation is set up so that the city you go to subsequently, it should give you the biggest culture shock as possible. So while San Francisco was very liberal, very open, very diverse, South Korea is super conservative, lots of hierarchy going on, and not really diverse at all. I had the best time in South Korea because I'm like the biggest K-pop fan, and there were so many like entertainment opportunities going on. But I think one of the most meaningful experiences in South Korea was that our school has a really robust network of companies and of organizations in each of these cities that we go to, and they really want us to connect. And while I was in South Korea, I worked with a charity organization, and I raised money for the Seoul Senior Home. And it just felt really meaningful because Seoul has a big senior population that is either being abandoned or lives in poverty because their children don't take care of them. And seeing the people, things and experiences like this really make all the challenges that we go through as students, being far away from home, really worth it. Yeah, another picture from South Korea. Okay, and then the last city I just came back from was Hyderabad, which is a city in South India. Again, very sharp, stark contrast. While Korea was amazingly organized, had superb infrastructure, everything was where it's supposed to be. In India, as a developing country, it was such a shock to me. It was a lot of chaos. Yeah, that's what I would call it. It was chaos, and it was chaos that I was scared in because I also wasn't used to being scared to just walking on the street, right? And I wasn't even comfortable, like I'm not even talking about crossing the street, that's just no, that's a no. And there was another big thing in India that was new to me and I definitely felt uncomfortable with, and it was the fact that I am a woman, and in Hyderabad especially, because it's a city where a lot of tech companies are, when I went walking on the street, I would really not see any women around. And even when I went to go shopping or when I went to restaurants and I had my friends with me, women were always being ignored. So if you're in a restaurant, the people, the servers, they would always greet my male friends. They would always ask them what we want to eat. They would always ask them if we want to pay. But my existence, because I was a woman, was pretty much ignored. And it really also gave me a lot of perspective because I have never felt this way, and I don't, like in the Czech Republic, I never felt like I couldn't do something or wasn't relevant because I'm a woman, and it definitely gave me so much more respect to the women that are going out and working in any city in the world that they're not being respected in, especially in Hyderabad. And because it's a tech city also, seeing like one woman in the crowd, it really gave me so much respect for these women. Yeah, traffic. Like I think riding a tuk was one of my favorite experiences in India because it's so thrilling. Like the fact that you don't have a seatbelt and you're just like out in the open and you can die anytime. That's really nice. Awesome. So as I went through these 3 cities so far, and I've moved a lot, I've seen a lot, I've met many, many people, I found out that I can make a home out of wherever I go, but it really depends on how I approach the city and how I seek the people in the city. The fact that I'm here sharing these experiences with you makes it even more meaningful to me because it means that the struggles that I went through and the hardships are useful because you guys can learn from them. One thing I'm hoping that you will take away from this is that if I, pretty much very ordinary person from Třeštica, was able to find these opportunities and go grab them, you can do it too. And to help you out, I compiled a document with websites and Facebook groups of opportunities that you can look into after you leave home. I will make sure that it gets to you. And that is pretty much it. If you have any questions, I'll be very happy to answer. And if you want to stalk me on social media, please go ahead.